Unexpected encounter. Millionaire discovers hidden connection with homeless twin girls and a ring. Ethan Sterling stood at the edge of his childhood neighborhood in Brooklyn, the stark complexities of a self-made millionaire cradling him in a cocoon of loneliness. A penthouse with panoramic views, designer suits, and crystal glasses filled with overpriced orange juice marked his success, yet a gnawing emptiness festered within him. Glances from peers, overflowing with admiration, left him feeling like a polished gemstone amidst rough stones, beautiful yet utterly disconnected. On an unusually warm Saturday morning, he stepped into the chaos of a local soup kitchen, a reluctant nod to the past that haunted him. As he ladled soup into plastic bowls, the vibrant chatter inside the cramped space buzzed like a beehive, yet the noise fell flat against Ethan's ears. He tried to engage with the other volunteers, forcing smiles that felt out of place against the background of hardship. With each bowl served, the suffocating expectation of his corporate world piled onto him, whispering the unrelenting mantra of productivity and profit margins, darkening the desire to connect with the community he once belonged to. After his shift, Ethan ventured into a nearby park, the sounds of children's laughter illuminating the shadows of his discontent. As he wandered, he spotted twins, Mia and Luna, perched on a weathered bench clutching an elderly woman's ring. The sunlight caught the brass, casting a soft glow, a glimmer of history amidst their tattered clothes. He felt a magnetic pull, as if fate had stitched their lives into his. His heart clenched as he learned of their tragic story. The sisters had lost their parents in an accident, now thrust into a life far too heavy for their small shoulders. They spoke of an artist grandmother, the colors of their pasts dulling with each word. With every detail, Ethan's own memories began to resurface, afternoons spent sketching under old oak trees, dreams he never dared pursue. Through their eyes, he saw a life that brimmed with meaning, filled with warmth and love, but held hostage by harsh realities. But as his bond with Mia and Luna deepened, so too did the weight of his privilege bear down upon him. He was poised tentatively between their struggle and the sterile world of corporate gain. Compounding his internal conflict were the calls from colleagues, eager to capitalize on the twins' harrowing story. The thought of turning their lives into fodder for the highest bidder twisted like a knife. How could he betray the innocence they had entrusted him with? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. With each passing moment, that internal battleground intensified. The pressure from his corporate world felt like a vice, squeezing the moral ambition from his veins. Should he help the twins to escape the clutches of bleakness, or should he expect the admiration of business partners while sacrificing their dignity? The clock ticked on his choice, a relentless reminder of the lives hanging in the balance. Would he choose to embrace his privilege with a mindful heart, or succumb to the familiar lure of wealth? As he stood, caught in this swirling storm of doubt and determination, he felt the suffocating weight of his decision pressing down. The question echoed in his mind, relentless and unforgiving. What is true wealth? Ethan's mind raced as he walked away from the park, a cacophony of thoughts spiraling through him. The faces of Mia and Luna were etched into his memory, their vulnerabilities speaking volumes more than their words ever could. He found himself replaying their story, each detail stabbing deeper into his consciousness. They were just children, yet they held an unfiltered view of reality that cut through the polished veneer of his life. In the privacy of his penthouse, the night cloaked the city in shadows, mirroring the uncertainty that clouded his thoughts. The skyline, once a symbol of his triumph, now loomed like an oppressive reminder of everything he might lose if he decided to sever his ties with a world of vapidity. He poured himself a drink but hesitated, staring at the glass as if expecting it to reveal the answers he sought. The liquid was a hollow comfort. Instead, Ethan opened his laptop, intending to draft a message to his business partner, but found himself hesitating. The screen blurred, and he realized he was trapped in a paradox. His corporate life fervently demanded attention, yet increasingly it felt like a distraction from what really mattered. He deleted the unsent email and began to type a letter to Mia and Luna. It was a simple note of encouragement, expressing his admiration for their resilience. But as he hit send, he felt a glimmer of hope. This small connection could potentially mean more than any deal he'd ever closed. Days passed, yet the struggle to balance his corporate obligations with the twins' needs consumed Ethan. Guilt gnawed at him during meetings as he caught himself daydreaming about ways to support Mia and Luna, brainstorming strategies involving art supplies or shelter. Each new idea clashed violently against the reality of his high-stakes world. The moment he picked up the phone to make a shady deal that hinted at monetizing their story, his hands trembled. He was on the precipice of a decision that could either affirm his moral compass or distort it forever. A week later, he returned to the park, determined to take action. As he located the twins' spot, sunlight bathing their forms in warmth, a bittersweet thrill surged within him. They were laughing, sharing stories with the old woman who had brought them back to life with hope. Ethan's chest tightened. He felt like an interloper, his reality stark and wealth-soaked, while their laughter was pure. "Mia, Luna," he called out, taking a step closer. Both girls turned, their expressions shifting from curiosity to shyness. The ring glimmered in the sunlight as Luna fidgeted with it, a tether to their past. Ethan felt an overwhelming urge to draw nearer, to envelop them in a blanket of safety that he wished he could provide. "You won't believe what I found out," he began, excitement bubbling as he shared news about a local community center that offered free art classes and mentoring for children. "I thought you might want to check it out." Their eyes lit up with a spark that ignited Ethan's determination to act. He proposed to accompany them to the center that very day, to navigate the path together towards new opportunities. It was in that moment Ethan felt something shift within him. He wasn't just providing, he was connecting, sharing pieces of his spirit that had long been dormant. But lurking in the shadows of his newfound clarity was a darkness that threatened to overshadow him. His business partner's voice echoed in his mind, reminding him of the financial threads he had to mend. The constant tension between profit and purpose loomed large. As they walked together to the community center, Ethan felt the weight of his privilege in stark contrast to the twins' plight. He had ignited a flicker of hope, yet he realized he was still ensnared in the corporate world's relentless grasp. The question lingered. Could he truly balance the weight of their dreams with the demands of his reality? The time had come to face what it meant to be both a mentor and a businessman, championing their cause without sacrificing his own values, yet uncertain of how to navigate the storm ahead. The vibrant colors of the park seemed to blend into a vivid blur for Ethan as he walked alongside Mia and Luna. Their laughter rang clear against the backdrop of a world that felt increasingly distant. Each step forward filled him with a strange mixture of enthusiasm and caution, amplifying the internal conflict brewing within him. This journey was not merely about guiding the twins, it was a reckoning with his own reality. As they approached the community center, a rustic building with sprawling vines that offered shade and comfort to those nearby, a sense of impending change flickered in Ethan's chest. The building stood not just as a structure, but a potential bridge to a life he longed to aspire to, not out of obligation, but from genuine connection. "Mia, what kind of art do you like?" he asked, genuinely curious. The question hung in the air, and both girls glanced at each other hesitantly. Mia tentatively responded, "I like drawing, especially flowers." Her eyes glimmered with the possibility that this interaction held promise for more than just a fleeting moment. Ethan smiled, the corners of his mouth lifting as he found solace in her enthusiasm. "What about you, Luna?" "I like painting," Luna chimed in, her voice barely above a whisper yet resonating with determination. The way she spoke illustrated a spirit that hadn't wavered despite the storms she had faced. Driven by an urge to support them, Ethan pictured canvases splashed with their dreams, the stories they hadn't yet penned. "Then you'll love the classes here," he replied, mirroring their excitement. But beneath the surface, doubts gnawed at him. How could he guide their dreams while balancing the corporation's needs? As he stepped through the center's doors, entranced by the colorful murals plastered on the walls, a pang of nostalgia washed over him. He reminisced about when he had painted with fervor as a child, long before the fluorescent glow of corporate ambitions dimmed his creative spark. Was that yearning truly lost, or merely buried under layers of expectation? The classes were bustling with children, laughter mixing with the sound of brushes on canvas. It felt like an awakening, a reminder of all he once believed in. But as the twins engaged with art supplies, his eyes scanned the crowd, spotting a familiar figure leaning against the wall, his business partner, Richard. The sight jolted him with the weight of reality. Sight of Richard, with his cunning smile, reminded Ethan of the financial missteps looming ahead, the pressure to sustain their current lifestyle gnawing at the edges of his newfound intentions. "Ethan, you're here," Richard said dismissively, his tone casual but filled with a thinly veiled critique. "I trust you're not thinking of wasting resources on a charity case." Each word felt heavy, laced with condescension. Ethan's heart raced, a physical manifestation of the internal battle erupting within him. Would he stand his ground or submit to the demands of the ruthless business world that had become so familiar? He opened his mouth, yet the weighty silence was deafening. A crossroads had appeared, demanding he choose between two lives. "I'm here to support these girls," Ethan finally stated, his voice steady but resolute, the conflict now laid bare between them. Richard smirked. "Support is fine, but remember what keeps the lights on." Ethan met his gaze, a steady resolve crystallizing within him. Could he harness the tensions of business and mentorship without losing sight of his newfound purpose? It was clear that the path ahead would not be easy, and with Richard's skepticism haunting him, the stakes intensified. The question of his identity loomed larger than ever. Ethan's heart whispered a truth he could no longer ignore. To choose the path of genuine purpose meant confronting the very foundation of his professional existence. As they stepped into the art class, Ethan resolved to protect this unexpected connection, a newfound determination solidifying within him. What he didn't realize was that his confrontation with Richard was only a foretaste of the challenges ahead. The decisions to come would not just shape his venture, but redefine who Ethan truly was. And with that, a dark cloud formed on the horizon. The time had come for Ethan to confront the pressures of his dual existence as both a businessman and protector, a bridge between two worlds fraying at the edges. How he navigated this terrain would ultimately decide the fate of Mia, Luna, and perhaps even his own redemption. As the laughter of children enveloped him, Ethan felt the vibrant atmosphere within the art class both invigorate and suffocate him. There was a stark contrast to the phantasmal world of numbers and profit margins he usually inhabited. In the chaos of creativity, he saw the twins giggling and smearing paint across their canvases, each stroke reflecting untouched potential, a haunting reminder of his own stifled dreams. The air tangibly shifted when he took a step forward, the sound of brushes whispering secrets of possibility. But Richard's words echoed relentlessly. "What keeps the lights on?" Those words coiled around his conscience like a serpent, clawing at the edges of his newfound resolve. Could he maintain this sanctuary of support for Mia and Luna while keeping the machinery of corporate demands churning? He felt the gears of his mind spin with potential strategies. He could help the girls achieve their dreams while simultaneously appeasing Richard's insatiable hunger for financial gain. Yet each plan dissolved in the face of a deeper truth he found himself wrestling with, the chasm that lay between ambition and authenticity. As the twins immersed themselves in their art, he noticed an old easel in the corner, covered in dust. It was an echo of his past aspirations, where he had spent evenings transforming blank canvases into stories that danced with life. The memories surged forth, a mix of joy and despair, fueling a determination to bridge that gap once more. He wanted to harness that same creativity to guide Mia and Luna. "Why do you like art?" he asked them, seeking to deepen the connection and inspire them to articulate their dreams. Mia paused, paintbrush hovering midair. "It's like magic. You take a blank space and make something that's never been before." Ethan's heart swelled. There it was, the spark he desperately needed. Exactly, and art can change the way we see the world around us. With each word, he felt the chains of his corporate existence begin loosening. Encouraged by their interaction, he made a decision. He would return to fostering his artistic side, not as an escape, but as an essential part of his identity. Taking small steps towards integrating mentorship into his life, he volunteered to organize showcases for Mia and Luna's work, their youthful enthusiasm rekindling sparks of his suppressed creativity. Just as he began contemplating how to blend his mentor role into his business strategy, his phone buzzed. A notification popped up. Richard was texting. The content dripped with passive aggression. "Don't forget we have that investor meeting tomorrow. Priorities, Ethan." Gripping the phone, Ethan felt the tension mount. Options flickered through his mind. One path led to the relentless drive for profit. The other ventured towards support and growth for the girls. He recalled the joy in both art and their laughter, the reassurance it brought him, a contagious joy divergent from the suffocating corporate atmosphere. Ethan inhaled deeply, feeling the gravity of his choices. Could he truly reconcile his present obligations with the future he envisioned? A decision loomed, one that was about so much more than just art or business. It was about legacy, purpose, and who he wanted to become. His heart raced with a mixture of exhilaration and trepidation. The time had come to stand firmly with Mia and Luna and accept the messy adventure of intertwining their futures with his own. Tomorrow's meeting with Richard would challenge everything he began to nurture today. He stared at the canvases around him, blooming with potential, and whispered to himself, "The time had come to face the reality of my choices. Can I weave together my old life and the one I am ready to embrace?" As dusk settled on the art class, Ethan felt the unmistakable flicker of change under his skin. The real trial was just beginning, and with it, the weight of truth squatted heavily on his shoulders. Would he dare to unveil his hidden self, even when confronted by Richard's contempt? As these thoughts converged, darkness slipped in around the edges. The next day was bound to change everything. Of that he was certain. Morning light slanted through the window, brightening Ethan's apartment but failing to penetrate the fog of anxiety that enveloped him. The ever-present specter of the investor meeting loomed large, its shadow casting doubt on every intention he had nurtured. In the cool embrace of his morning coffee, he weighed the emotional warmth of Mia and Luna against the cutthroat pragmatism demanded by Richard. He squinted at the reflection in his mug, tracing the lines of weariness carved into his face. His thoughts churned. The visions of the day before, colors swirling on canvases, filled with promise, taunted him. Can I really embrace my artistic side amid the suffocating corporate expectations? A chilling realization struck him. He had been holding his breath, waiting for permission to live. As he paced his kitchen, Ethan began formulating a plan. If he could showcase the girl's talent while integrating it into a corporate framework, there might be a way to appease Richard's demands without sacrificing his newfound dedication to the arts. Perhaps an art exhibition partnered with the business community, an event that highlights creativity and corporate responsibility. The thought lit a flicker of hope, but he quickly suppressed it. What would Richard think? He imagined Richard rolling his eyes, belittling the idea before he even voiced it. What do we need art for when we have numbers? The cynicism pricked at his hope. Yet, as he rehearsed these confrontations in his mind, he felt a surge of resolve. Maybe it was time for Richard to see the value in creativity. With a deep breath, Ethan began to shift his focus from fear to action, mentally listing the steps he needed to take. It was one thing to dream about mentorship and creativity, it was another to execute. He needed an attractively bold presentation for his ideas, one that seamlessly blended their artistic endeavors with potential profits. His phone vibrated, once more announcing Richard's dominion over his day. This time, the brief message was a simple reminder: remember your priorities. It served as both a tone of warning and a challenge. The gnawing resentment bubbled within him, the kind of resentment that roots when a person feels trapped between societal expectations and their own soul's longing. As Ethan dressed for the meeting, he mentally rehearsed his pitch, not allowing the rising tide of doubt to drown his aspirations. "Art changes lives," he muttered under his breath, envisioning Mia and Luna's creative energy channeling through the framework of their futures. He needed to paint that possibility to Richard, illustrate that investing in the girls would not only enrich their lives, but also create a ripple effect in the community, enhancing his company's image. Once seated across from Richard in the conference room, doubt crept in as the investor settled into his customary posture, a calculated detachment that radiated skepticism. Richard's gaze flitted over Ethan, as if assessing his worthiness. "You had something important to discuss?" Ethan squared his shoulders, heart pounding. This was about more than securing funding. It was an unveiling of who he wanted to become. "Yes, I want to propose an art showcase that highlights emerging talent while aligning with our brand," he began, nervously balancing the notebook on his knees as if it could ground him in the moment. Richard's brows knitted together, skepticism thickening the air. "Art won't pay our bills, Ethan." With each word from Richard, Ethan felt pressure gnawing at his resolve. Was he prepared to fight for something that felt so right, even if it meant risking everything? Yet, as he glanced at the sketches held before him, as if they were talismans of faith, a wave washed over him. He dared to dream. But what if art could inspire loyalty, harness creativity in our organization, and touch lives beyond profit margins? Richard's expression threatened to remain unmoved, his eyes narrowing as if to squeeze out the optimism shining in Ethan's words. Ethan's pulse quickened. The battle had begun, not just with Richard, but with himself. "I'll show you that art can be our greatest asset," he declared, conviction ringing in his tone. As Richard leaned back in his chair, folding his arms in contemplation, Ethan felt the weight of his determination solidify in the room. The next moments would define whether he could truly bridge the chasm between ambition and authenticity, or if he drowned under corporate expectations. As the silence stretched, Ethan realized he was standing at a precipice, one that would irrevocably change the course of his life. Could he convince Richard to embrace a vision beyond mere numbers? The air crackled with tension. The moment hung, expectant, as if it knew the stakes. What lay ahead was unwritten, but Ethan was ready to draft a new narrative, one brushstroke at a time. And then the door creaked open, and a familiar figure stepped through, her eyes glinting with urgency. The unexpected encounter triggered a ripple of possibilities he had never anticipated. The world turned as an uncharted path began to reveal itself. Ethan's heart raced as Mia entered the conference room, her presence an unexpected surge of life in the sterile environment. A mix of concern and relief washed over him, momentarily halting his spiraling thoughts about Richard's impending dismissal. Her eyes sparkled with a mix of determination and hope, and for a fleeting moment he wondered if she had arrived to save him from his dilemma. "Mia," he said, his voice slightly cracking, "what are you doing here?" She rushed in, her breath coming in quick bursts. "I need to talk to you. It's important." Richard's brows furrowed, clearly annoyed by the abrupt interruption. His arm unapologetically crossed over his chest, exuding a power that made the air electric with tension. "Can't this wait?" he asked curtly, shifting his gaze between Ethan and Mia, who stood unwavering, fueled by desperation. Ethan opened his mouth to protest, but halted, recognizing the urgency in Mia's expression that communicated things between them that neither Richard nor even Ethan understood. "No, it can't," he said firmly, surprising both himself and Richard. "This is a priority." Richard's irritation flared, but the conviction in Ethan's voice held power. He leaned back in his chair, reluctantly curtailing his disdain long enough for Mia to speak. With her hands clenched by her sides, Mia took a deep breath. "I found something that connects the girls to a larger story, something that could bring significant attention and funding if we play our cards right." Ethan's pulse quickened. Could this be the revelation he desperately needed? A way to elevate his pitch to Richard while showcasing the profound impact of investing in Mia and Luna. Still, the question loomed unsettlingly in his mind. Was he ready to incorporate this twist into an already precarious situation? "What are you talking about?" he asked, trying to mask the hope rising in him. "The ring," Mia said, stepping closer. "It belonged to Luna's mother. I think it could be the key to telling their story, and to showing Richard how art can embody their struggle, their resilience. We can create a narrative around the ring to make it more than just a showcase of talent. It becomes a symbol." Richard, caught between the drama unfolding and the urgency of corporate necessity, raised an eyebrow. "You want to toss a sob story around a piece of jewelry?" Ethan's frustration boiled beneath the surface, but as he looked at Mia, he realized this was not just a story, it was an awakening. He envisioned how powerful it would be for the girls to find their voice through this narrative. It's more than that. It's a representation of reclamation, of their journey. Mia nodded, energizing Ethan's words. People connect to stories. If we tell theirs through art, melding their background, their mother's legacy, and their talent, it can spark community support. Corporations want to be involved in meaningful stories. Richard, however, leaned in with skepticism brewing in his gaze. "And you think a couple of anecdotal connections will make a difference in the boardroom? That it will resonate with stakeholders waiting for numbers at the end of the day?" Ethan swallowed hard, feeling the weight of Richard's disbelief, but the fire ignited within him. What if we create a series of pieces inspired by the ring that embodies the struggle for identity? We could auction the artwork to fund the girl's future. For a heartbeat, the room held its breath. Richard studied Ethan's determination, his gaze sharpening, considering the potential publicity and corporate social responsibility this angle could generate for his brand. But the skepticism wasn't entirely extinguished. "You're playing a risky game here." "Risk is part of innovation," Ethan shot back, feeling the thrill of asserting himself against his mentor's challenge. Mia took another step forward, vulnerability and strength colliding in her spirit. "This isn't just about money, it's about giving us a future and honoring the past." Richard's frown deepened, resting in a crossroads of indecision. For Ethan, every second felt like a precious moment teetering between doubt and hope, a dance on a tightrope strung across his ambitions. Mia's eyes reflected understanding as they locked on to Ethan's, both of them fully aware that this was not merely about funding or art. It was about personal testimony and authenticity. "Ethan," Richard said, his tone shifting but not yet conceding, "this is your pitch. What's your next move?" Ethan felt adrenaline surging through him, cementing his resolve. The transformative moment settled within, and he investigated the nexus between the path he was on and the one Mia had brought forth. "I want to reframe how we sell our narrative," he declared, defiant yet humble. "Let me create something real, something that speaks to the humanity in all of us." If we must risk our reputation to find empathy in these numbers, then let's take that step. As he concluded, he dared to glance at Mia, where understanding sparked anew. Richard remained silent, weighing his options. What would this choice reveal about Ethan's authenticity in navigating corporate ambition while wrestling with his artistic heart? The door swung slightly, like the winds of change, the room filled with electric anticipation, as if the universe itself held its breath, waiting for the impact of that decision. Ethan was at a crossroads, the terrain blurred between ambition and art. But the unknown potential that lay ahead sparked a thrilling challenge. Would he step deeper into this unexpected journey, or...
In the allure of success, a proverbial edge of every artist's pursuit, this decision could either launch him into new heights or lead to a dramatic fall from grace. Then came Richard's sigh, a deeply rumbling acknowledgement of the challenge before them. Fine, I'll give you both a chance, but this better not blow up in my face. A rush of adrenaline surged through Ethan. He had not only defended a vision, but had now earned an opportunity for a groundbreaking initiative, too. "We won't let you down," he promised, his voice steadied by newfound purpose. Mia smiled, an electric spark igniting their collaboration. But beneath that excitement lingered an unspoken weight: fear. The path ahead was murky, unknown, rife with the potential for missteps, yet concurrently blanketed by hopes. Ethan's reflections sprouted doubts again as he left the conference room. Would he lose himself in this ambition? How could he ensure that their journey remained genuine while navigating this corporate landscape? As he weighed each thought, the answer began to emerge. That balance between authenticity and ambition was one he would have to navigate carefully. The stark corridor stretched into the unknown, buzzing with uncertainty and anticipation. And as he walked, a familiar feeling crept back. The determination to succeed had now morphed into a tangle of fear and ambition. This was no longer just about success. It was about finding his voice amidst expectations. It was about unlocking truth while intertwining feedback from a society eager for connection. His very identity as an artist and professional had begun to unravel, opening pathways he hadn't yet considered. With each step, he realized the challenge wasn't merely about pitching ideas. It was about confronting the delicate intricacies of his own ambitions. But would he hold on to his identity, or would he let the tides of success sweep him away? The door loomed ahead, its threshold symbolizing not just an exit, but a choice. Would he risk it all for authenticity while the corporate world beckoned him to conform? As Ethan gripped the handle, a compelling urge gripped him. You can't shift without facing what lies ahead. And sometimes, the only way to find out who you truly are is to step boldly into unknown depths. Ethan stepped through the door, the crisp air of the hallway igniting a flicker of adrenaline in his veins. He also felt a pulse of uncertainty as he ventured further into an unknown landscape that awaited him beyond the conference room. Each informative glance at the adjacent offices, each distant murmur of conversation, drove him deeper into contemplation about the vision he had just vowed to build with Mia, and more importantly, how he would fit into that future. The elevator ride felt interminable. As metal doors slid shut, Ethan's mind raced. The stakes had risen dramatically. They weren't simply pitching a campaign or curating art. They were forging pathways to authenticity within an industry that often valued surface over substance. Could he truly maintain the integrity of their vision? What if the pressures from Richard and the board clouded their purpose? His thoughts drifted to Mia. Her activism radiated passion and empathy, sparking something deep within him he hadn't fully recognized before. She wasn't just a colleague, she was a catalyst for his own evolution. Their mission was twofold: support the girls and rekindle a sense of truth in a realm cluttered with formulas and metrics. As the elevator creaked to a halt, the doors opened and he stepped into the bustling office floor. He had to focus. With Richard's reluctant support, the next step was not merely execution, but also strategic execution. Ethan cycled through options in his head, meetings to schedule, proposals to draft, artists to approach, but every thought came back to the core question. How could he keep the true heart of their initiative intact while still adhering to corporate expectations? He caught a glimpse of Mia across the office, animatedly discussing ideas with some team members. Her commitment to the cause invigorated him. With each minute they spent refining their proposal, the clearer the project became. Yet every constructive dialogue only amplified a lingering doubt. What would happen when the reality of their concept met with the stark analysis of numbers? Would their vision survive the inevitable scrutiny? A jolt of inspiration struck him. What if, in this matrix of expectations, he could turn conflict into creativity? Perhaps he could wield the corporate lens to their advantage, using their analytical approach as a tool rather than a limitation. Could he propose a model that not only met stakeholders' metrics, but also encapsulated the essence of what they were trying to achieve? Ethan forged his plan, outlining a specific framework to present to Richard. If they integrated financial projections with statistical narratives that showcased the potential impact of their artwork and stories, they might just bridge the gap. They could convey value not just through profits, but through community engagement and emotional resonance. Beneath that revelation lay another layer. Could he convince Mia that merging art and analytics didn't diminish their integrity, but fortified it? He approached her, finding her in the middle of an animated discourse. There was an effervescence there that excited him. As he broached the idea, however, he was met with skepticism. "Merging the corporate aspects with our mission sounds pragmatic," she replied cautiously. "But it also risks diluting what we're fighting for. I don't want our stories to become just numbers on a spreadsheet." Her response stung. It carried the weight of truth. Ethan wrestled internally with the push and pull of authenticity versus necessity. Could there be a pathway that maintained their vision while appealing to the need for metrics? He sensed a pivotal moment, a decision made not merely in pursuit of success, but from ethical stance. Their relationship as collaborators stood in the balance, tethered by a fragile thread of mutual trust. In that moment, he recognized the need to emphasize shared values. New ideas could be forged through dialogue, agreement, or dissent, and they needed to navigate this together. The air crackled around them as Ethan expressed his commitment to uphold their core beliefs while pushing for a robust strategy. He realized that the challenge before them was not merely about securing approval or crafting proposals. It was a shared path of discovery, one that encompassed their individual motivations, aspirations, and fears. As the hours unfolded, they immersed themselves further into brainstorming sessions. The more Ethan listened to Mia, the more receptive he became to the notion that genuine connection must blend seamlessly with calculated strategy. In doing so, he discovered an emerging leadership quality within himself, an ability to inspire while staying grounded in authenticity. Yet with each passing moment came the silent pressure of the impending board meeting looming in the near future, leaving Ethan to grapple with a fundamental truth. This exploration wasn't just about them. The girls, the ring, and their legacy would become a living testament of their resolve, demanding careful stewardship against a tidal wave of corporate pragmatism. He needed to unify the distinct worlds they occupied, the authenticity of their mission and the analytical demands of the business. The tension of opposing forces galvanized him, propelling him into the heart of their shared endeavor. But as they honed their strategy, the nagging doubts of potential disillusionment never ceased. Would their collaboration produce a crescendo of success or a cacophony of compromise? Each day brought deeper challenges, and one question reverberated more loudly than ever. How would they respond when the time came to present their vision, risking everything to pursue a dream that belonged not just to them, but to those they aimed to uplift? As Ethan buried himself in research and ideas, refreshing clarity came through. This journey had only just begun. They were on the brink of unveiling not only the narrative behind the ring, but the very essence of their identities within a rapidly shifting landscape. The clock ticked ominously as Ethan prepared them both mentally for the confrontation that awaited, the moment they would stand before the board and battle to protect the authenticity of their vision. He felt the weight of impending decisions pressing down upon him. The moment to face the truth of their aspirations had arrived. Ethan's thoughts swirled as he and Mia prepared to face the board. The atmosphere crackled with unspoken tension. It felt as if they were standing on a precipice about to leap into the unknown. He stared at the presentation slides, each one a carefully constructed blend of statistics and heartfelt narratives. But deep down, a nagging realization gnawed at him. No amount of data could encapsulate the true impact they aimed to create. It was the raw stories of the girls, the lives transformed, that held weight. Before walking into the boardroom, Ethan took a deep breath. This moment would define not only their project, but his evolution as a professional. He had always been adept at navigating the corporate landscape, but this time was different. He wasn't just peddling a campaign. He was advocating for something larger, something real. They entered the boardroom together. Richard sat at the head of the table, flanked by the board members, each face an expression of skepticism mixed with curiosity. Ethan could sense their collective anticipation. Would he stand firm for what they believed in, or would he buckle under the pressure of the numbers they loved so much? Ethan began the presentation, articulating their vision with conviction. He painted a picture of empowerment and authenticity, detailing how their initiative was not merely a marketing strategy, but rather a movement aimed at celebrating the stories of the girls whose lives would be impacted. As he spoke, he caught a glimpse of Mia out of the corner of his eye. Her presence instilled a surge of strength in him, grounding him as he navigated the waves of corporate dialogue. But as he transitioned to the financial projections, he could see the board's expressions shift. They leaned forward, ready to pounce on anything that appeared out of alignment with their metrics. Richard interjected with a question about projected profits, his tone laced with disbelief. Ethan floundered at first. The numbers didn't reflect the depth of their mission, and he felt the walls of the boardroom closing in on him. He hesitated, questioning how to respond without sacrificing their integrity. "Absolutely, the numbers are crucial," he finally responded, steeling himself. "But what we're really selling is a connection, a chance to alter lives through art and authentic storytelling. That's worth far more than the profit margins alone." Murmurs rippled through the board members, but something about his earnestness sparked a flicker of interest. He decided to push further, to intertwine the economic forecasts with the human stories they had collected. He invited Mia to share the tales that had inspired them, hoping her words could soften the walls the board had built around analytics. Mia took a deep breath and began. Her voice was steady, yet it quaked with emotion as she recounted the girls' struggles, their passions, their dreams, the very essence of what the project aimed to uphold. With each story she shared, Ethan could see it. The board's faces transformed from skepticism to contemplation. The weight of raw humanity began to eclipse the cold precision of their analytics. They were drawn in, witnessing firsthand the blend of art and entrepreneurial spirit they had so often neglected. Just then, a surprisingly bold question came from one of the quieter board members. "How will you measure success in human terms beyond these financial projections?" Ethan paused, taken aback not just by the question, but by its sincere intent. This was the authentic challenge he had been yearning for, to bridge the divide between metrics and meaning. "Our success will be measured by the feedback from the girls, how many lives we touch, how many stories resonate," he said, conviction bubbling forth. "In achieving that, the profits will follow. When we invest the heart of our mission, it will reflect on the bottom line." As he spoke, Ethan felt a quiet fire ignite within him. He was not merely defending the project's worth, he was reconnecting to the very motivations that had led him here. In that moment, he rediscovered his purpose, not only as a cog in the corporate wheel, but as an advocate for a cause transcending traditional business paradigms. But just as the board seemed to lean toward acceptance, the looming question of compromise cast a shadow over his conscience. Would they ultimately agree? What would he and Mia have to concede to please the board, if anything? The air was thick with anticipation, and Ethan knew this was only the beginning. He felt the fragile thread of their vision twine around the decisions made in that room. Would it hold, or would they be forced to abandon crucial parts of their mission for corporate approval? Each second ticked painfully forward, urging him to confront not just the board's challenges, but his own. He had to lead, to forge ahead without losing his commitment to authenticity. A wave of determination washed over him. As they awaited the board's decision, a new thought emerged. No matter the outcome, this moment had already reshaped him. The time had come to face the reality of their shared vision, to emerge united not only as partners, but as advocates for something greater than themselves. Would they be ready for the trials ahead, or would the pressure fracture the foundation they had worked so hard to build? The answer loomed just within reach, and as Ethan braced himself for what was to come, he felt the ground shift beneath him once again. Ethan stood in front of a room full of board members, a blend of hope and trepidation coursing through him. He had poured every ounce of intention into this presentation, intertwining the struggles of Mia and Luna with the raw power of their stories and the art that would arise from their experiences. He had ventured far from the confines of profit margins, seeking to demonstrate that true value extended beyond numbers. It resided in lives transformed and communities strengthened. The initial tension began to dissipate as Ethan shared the twins' narrative alongside financial projections that revealed a promising future. Mia's stories flooded the room, her voice a steady beacon reflecting the passion that prompted their initiative. The board members leaned in, clearly captivated by the authenticity that sprung from Mia's heartfelt account. However, as silence stretched and the weight of their gazes bore down, imminent uncertainty returned. Would they accept this vision? Would they embrace art and humanity along the numbers? Moments passed. Then, slowly, Richard broke the silence. "Your passion is commendable, and the narratives are compelling," he said slowly, eyeing Ethan with an intensity he couldn't decipher. "But how do we ensure this doesn't become a mere charitable endeavor? We need numbers, real numbers, if we're moving forward." Ethan's heart sank momentarily. Had all this drive, all this energy culminated in a moment of doubt? But as he glanced at Mia, whose expression reflected a fierce determination, he felt poise returning. He realized they had forged something together, not merely numbers on a spreadsheet, but a movement that begged for existence. "Richard," Ethan began, willing his voice to remain steady, "this is an investment in humanity. You cannot quantify the impact of unearthing creativity trapped inside two young girls, whose empowerment can create ripples throughout the community. When we uplift their stories and merge them with our brand's identity, we infuse our company with the trust and loyalty of consumers who crave authenticity." As Richard's expression shifted from skepticism to contemplation, Ethan continued, "Let's create a framework where financial success is not merely dictated by numbers, but by meaningful engagement metrics. How many lives we touch, the community support we rally, and the connections we forge through art. These will be our benchmarks." The board members exchanged glances, whispers trailing around the table like electricity in the air. Ethan could sense the tension loosening. They were beginning to see a spark of potential in this unorthodox merging of purpose and profitability. After what felt like an eternity, the quietest board member spoke up once more. "Ethan, what you're proposing is unconventional, especially for us. Are you confident you can pivot towards this direction while ensuring we maintain our core objectives? Can your passion translate into a profitable venture?" Ethan felt a surge of possibility rising within him. "Yes, let's illustrate this through a pilot project, a smaller exhibition that showcases the twin stories and infuses our branding while allowing us to evaluate its community effectiveness.
We can create metrics that measure emotional engagement alongside financial outcomes. A ripple of discussion ensued, and eventually Richard nodded. I'll back the pilot, but this better yield results. We are charting unknown territory here. Relief surged through Ethan, followed by exhilaration. They were taking the leap together, a testament to his evolution, their vision entwined. As the meeting wrapped up, Ethan and Mia exchanged looks bursting with recognition. They had risen above the expectations set by the corporate world and rekindled the fire of creativity, passion, and purpose. They felt a boost of confidence, knowing they had the opportunity to reshape not just their own futures, but perhaps even the narrative of art in business. Walking out of the boardroom, Ethan felt liberated. He hadn't just defended an idea, he had contributed to a paradigm shift, integrating personal fulfillment with professional ambition. He had proved to himself that authenticity and purpose could coexist within the corporate machinery, transforming not just lives, but also him in the process. Mia turned to him, her eyes bright with enthusiasm. "We did it, together." "Yes, we did," Ethan replied, a firm belief settling over him that they would create a legacy lasting far beyond the confines of a business strategy. As they exited into the bustling streets of the core city, leaving behind the sterile confines of corporate walls, Ethan felt invigorated and empowered, no longer defined by numbers or profit margins, but by stories that transcended metrics. They stepped forward together, steered by newfound purpose, ready to bring Mia and Luna's art to life, honored to channel their struggles and joys into something beautiful. Ethan had embraced the duality of his existence, a businessman with a heart, a mentor ignited by inspiration, and an individual relentlessly pursuing his newfound calling. This journey had redefined him, guiding him toward uncharted realms where dreams melded with action. And now, with the past behind him, the future ahead glimmered with infinite possibilities. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. True fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.